My name is David Jaffe. Welcome to the Wealth and Health Podcast, where you'll learn valuable skills and positive habits that will improve your life. This podcast originally aired as a video on my YouTube channel at youtube.com/beststockstrategy. The Wealth and Health Podcast is brought to you by beststockstrategy.com. Why every male should work as a nightclub promoter. So a little bit of story time. I graduated from Cornell University and then I started working as an investment banker. I had offers from Morgan Stanley, but then I left Cornell after 3.5 years because I had completed all my coursework. And then CIBC World Markets made me an offer. They gave me a pretty large signing bonus. So then I started working in their Industrial Growth and Services group, which at the time was led by Mark Henkels, who I believe is now currently working at Moelis. So I thought that at 21 years old, making around $150,000 a year, living in Manhattan, that girls would be very attracted to me. I was completely wrong. Even though I was making a lot of money, I didn't have a lot of time to invest. And also I would have to frequently cancel the dates that I would make because work was always a number one priority. So if I told a girl that I would go out on a Friday or Saturday night, it was always contingent upon how much work I had to get done. And there was only about a 50-50 chance that I would actually be able to make the date and not have to cancel. I worked in industrial growth and services for about a year. Then I requested a transfer with HR. Initially, they didn't want to grant the transfer, but then I told them I was going to quit unless they allowed me to switch groups. So finally, they placed me in the financial restructuring group, which at that time was led by Joe Radecki. The crazy thing about this group was that I was getting paid the same amount as I was in industrial growth and services, but I wasn't doing any work. I would literally get into the office at 9 and leave at 5. But even during that 8-hour window, I really wasn't doing much. Maybe I was doing about an hour's worth of work. And because in my previous group, I had to be so incredibly efficient at getting my work done, I was able to complete all of the work in the new group very quickly. This left about 7 hours of downtime. I was kind of bored. I didn't know what to do, and I felt like I was wasting time. And because I was a very big workaholic, I felt that I needed to be productive. My friend, who I met at Cornell, he was a little bit older than me. His name is Chris Riccioni. He recommended that I promote nightclubs. And the reason why he recommended it is because he would sign up to work as a promoter with Velvet List in New York City. And then he would bring out myself and a few of our friends, and we would get him for free at some of the local clubs. We thought that he was really cool because we could walk into some decent clubs without having to pay anything. So Chris recommended that I promote nightclubs. And at the time, I thought that the only people who promote nightclubs are alcoholics or drug addicts or people who are on steroids. But I was completely 100% wrong. So now that I laid the groundwork, let me tell you about some of my personal experiences and why I believe that every single male should be involved as a nightclub promoter. First, even though I thought previously that only alcoholics or drug addicts or people on steroids will promote nightclubs, the reality is that I have never been drunk or done any illicit drugs. Now, I've taken a lot of pharmaceutical drugs, which are probably more harmful to my body than the illicit drugs, but I've already discussed that stuff in a lot of other videos, and if you guys want, then I'll make another video about that as well. In nightlife, if you treat it like a business, then you can make a lot of money. During my prime, I was making about $5,000 a week in nightlife. I was making about twice as much money as a nightclub promoter as I was in investment banking. If I had to do it over right now, let's say I was in my late teens or early 20s, I would move to either Miami, Las Vegas, or Austin, Texas. Probably the first two would be Miami and Las Vegas. And I don't necessarily have a preference between Miami or Las Vegas. Both of them are pretty equal regarding what's the best opportunity. Miami, Las Vegas, and Austin are the new Los Angeles, San Francisco, and New York City. Los Angeles, San Francisco, and New York City are no longer highly desirable, so I would definitely recommend either Miami, Las Vegas, or Austin, Texas. Now, let's get into some of the many benefits of nightlife and why I believe almost every young male should become a nightclub promoter. The first is that you have incredible access to anyone. I've met tons of celebrities and famous people, including Kim Kardashian, Amy Reed, the porn star, Leonardo DiCaprio, tons of famous athletes like Jason Kidd, and many others. Every single year, I would meet around 30 to 50,000 people. What I would do is I would just walk up to attractive girls, I would give them my business card, and I would tell them, hey, I'm a promoter, I think you're cute, can I have your email? I'd like you to come out to my parties. Then I would give them my business card to establish credibility, and then I would write their email address on the back of an unused card. The next day, I would enter them into my email database. When you meet so many people, you have zero approach anxiety. So it doesn't matter whether the person accepts you or rejects you or gives you their email or their phone number or not. The reality is that you do it so often that you become completely desensitized to the outcome. And I think that this is a big benefit because you become very bold. It allows you to approach strangers without having any type of social anxiety. You can strike up a conversation with anyone. And this is very valuable in our society. Additionally, you have a keen understanding of social dynamics and you realize how important social status is. So, going back to what I said previously, where women were not interested in me as an investment banker, but now those same women were attracted to me and I had to put forth zero effort. I can simply walk them into Marquee or Lavo or Kane or Pink Elephant or 10 June, sit them down at a table, and I didn't have to put forth any effort at all, and they would be interested in me. And the reason for this is that I had very high social status. I'm walking into the most exclusive clubs. I don't have to wait online. We get free drinks and free bottles. And this is very attractive to females. So perhaps more important than actually making money is how other people treat you. So if other people treat you with respect and you have high social status, then you're instantly found very attractive to the opposite sex. So these are two advantages. Well, I guess three. The first advantage is that you can make an insane amount of money. The second advantage is that you have no social anxiety and you become desensitized to approaching and striking up a conversation with random people. The third is that you have high social status, you understand social dynamics, and you become insanely attractive to members of the opposite sex. The next is that you become very confident with women, with celebrities, with very successful people who are worth millions of dollars. You're just having a conversation with them and you realize that they're just normal, everyday people who have problems just like you. So you become very comfortable and you don't judge anyone, whether they're a celebrity or whether they're a typical person. You become very confident speaking to all types of people. The next advantage, this was probably my biggest mistake. I had access to so many people. But because I was working as an investment banker and I was also working really hard as a nightclub promoter, I didn't care about the present relationships or the future business opportunities that I could potentially have. I remember when John B. or John Bakshi, who owned Home and Guest House, invited me to his apartment. He was interested in getting to know me, but the only thing I cared about was getting the check and the money that he owed me. I remember when Stratus, who was a very successful restaurateur, would invite me to his venues. And I think he even invited me to the Hamptons. He invited me to stay with him, but I never took him up on that opportunity. Also, I remember one night at Marquee when I met Noah Tepperberg, and I was kind of rude to him. And I could have just played that situation a lot different. If I had the opportunity to do things over, I would have formed very strong relationships with these people, as well as some of the more successful people in nightlife, like Richie Romero or John Gable. And perhaps I would have a few venues that were open right now, or I would be involved in hotels. So definitely the networking aspect and forming relationships and then leveraging that for future business opportunities is one of the major advantages of working in nightlife. Now, let's talk about the drawbacks. The first major drawback that I see for people is that there are significant amounts of temptations. If you're someone who is tempted by alcohol or drugs, then nightlife is definitely not for you because it can destroy your life. And the second drawback is that you have to be comfortable with people using you. And also, let's be honest, you're using people. It's a numbers game. You're going to get paid based upon how much money you generate, how many people you bring out, how many bottles you sell. And people are only going to reach out to you if they know that you can get them into the club that they want to go at without any hassle. So if you can quote unquote hook them up, then they'll reach out to you. And you have to be comfortable with people using you and really not caring about you, but instead they only care about what you can do for them. But in many respects, that's life. That's how a lot of people are. The third drawback, which goes hand in hand with the second, is that you're going to meet a lot of fake friends. People who are going to pretend to be your friend, but in reality, they might actually be secretly jealous of you and they might be trying to hurt you or sabotage your success. So this is something that is really important. You have to make sure that you're a good judge of character and you only allow certain people within your inner circle. The fourth drawback is that you have to stay out late. When you're in your late teens or early 20s, this is actually pretty easy. But when you're in your 30s, it becomes a lot harder to rebound. I remember when I was in my early 20s, I would come home at about 5 in the morning, and then I would wake up the next day at about 4 p.m. I was just completely exhausted from nightlife and also from investment banking. So I would go to sleep at about 5 or 6 in the morning. I would wake up at 4 p.m. and then would go into the office. And then at night, I would go out at about 10 p.m. But if you're okay with staying out late or you're a night person, then this isn't necessarily a disadvantage. And the final disadvantage is that you have to make sure that you don't develop any bad habits. After the clubs would close, my friends and I, we would eat pizza or we would go to after parties. These aren't really good habits where you're going to eat processed foods before you go to sleep, or you're going to go to after parties where there will be a ton of drugs. So you have to make sure that you develop good habits as opposed to bad habits, especially if you want to stay around for a long time and you want to do this as a career where you want to open up your own club or you want to delve into casinos or hotels. So that's about it. I definitely believe that the benefits outweigh the drawbacks, and I also believe that every single young male should become a nightclub promoter. If you have any questions, you're more than welcome to book a phone call with me. If I had to do things over, I would not go to college. Instead, I recognize how important and how vital time is. So I would probably drop out of high school, get a GED, and then move to Miami or Las Vegas or even Austin, Texas at about 16 years old. Then I would start working as a real estate agent, and then I would start working as a nightclub promoter, and then I would see where that would lead me. By doing that for 3 or 4 years, I would build up a really strong Rolodex. I'd probably have a few $100,000 in the bank. And then I would start doing real estate and potentially start opening up hotels while also promoting nightclubs and potentially open up my own successful nightclub. Like I said before, if you have any questions, you're welcome to book a phone call with me. If you're interested in options trading, you can visit beststockstrategy.com. Enter in your email address and receive over $400 of valuable free training, and leave a comment below. Let me know your thoughts on whether you believe that people should become nightclub promoters or whether you disagree and you don't believe that people should become nightclub promoters. Visit beststockstrategy.com and submit your email address to receive valuable free training. Please give this podcast a positive rating and review. If you have any questions, visit beststockstrategy.com and send me a message.